Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well today. Thanks so much for joining us. Want to remind you of a couple things before we get going. Sons and Slaves podcast. If you've not yet discovered that, we have that going on with my sons. And what we're talking about is a book called Boyhood and Beyond. And the whole process of the Sons and Slaves is just raising sons into men. And a part of that is going through good books like we're going through with Boyhood and Beyond. And we're just taking chapter by chapter and having conversations about it and just having a really good time. Would love for you to check out the Sons and Slaves podcast. And also, just want to remind you about Fruitful and Fearless. Fruitful and Fearless is going really well. It's been a little bit hit or miss when Jordan's getting an episode out, but if you have your wife or your ladies from your church that need some good content, then would love for you to pass that information along. Jordan's doing a great job with Fruitful and Fearless as that continues to go. And if you want to be a part of the membership, you heard it in the ad, but would love for you to have an opportunity to get the newsletter once a month and all the stuff that comes with membership. If you want in on that, just let me know. Well, I have a repeat guest today, and I'm excited. I saw an Instagram video or picture the other day of a nice buck that my buddy Tate Taylor shot. So we're going to hear the story. Tate, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you, Jared?
I'm doing fantastic. Well, we go ahead and pray and can't wait to hear all about it. And I'm going to tell a couple stories of my hunting season. It wasn't nearly as good as yours from what I could see, but we're going to have fun having a good conversation. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this time and we ask for blessing upon this conversation. Thank you for the gift that is being able to provide. Thank you for your command to men to provide for those that are around us and the great opportunity we have to be able to do that through hunting is just a lot of fun. Thank you that provision can be just a really good time. Pray that this would be a fun conversation, and thank you that Tate got to get such a nice buck this year, and looking forward to hearing the story. Ask for blessing upon it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Well, brother, you were on, I don't know, 6 months ago, 8 months ago. I can't remember now. It kind of all runs together, but I would love to hear just about your hunting season and bring us up to speed. If you got any does or anything, but we saw this really nice. I want to know if it was your target buck. You've been watching it, or I'm assuming you got it with your bow. Maybe you got it with your gun, but just bring us up to speed about this buck.
So this hunting season has been pretty sparse for me. I've got a little boy. He's a year and a half, so pretty full with him. My wife actually has her own bookkeeping business that she runs out of our home. So she's full time at the house, but she does part time work. And so we've pretty much got our hands full for the most part. The last couple hunting seasons have been pretty slow for me. Uh, it's a whole lot of like slowing down in my work truck on the way to and from work to like look at deer in the woods on the,
And I get it.
like
There's your
you know
scouting.
yeah, that's most of what I would consider my hunting season. But this particular situation is a really cool one. I have a friend that I grew up with and went through school together, first through 12th. Our families have known each other forever. Grew up in church with her, and anyways, we've been friends my whole life. And she met a guy her first year at university, and they got married not too long after. And unbeknownst to her, she had never hunted before, never been into it, lived in rural East Texas her whole life,
Okay.
just like me, and never got into it. But his family is a big hunting family, and they have a little more weight to throw around when it comes to things like this. So they own a high fence ranch
Gotcha.
down in the central Texas, south of Austin area, which is kind of renowned for growing really big deer. Anyways, they've her family now has had this ranch for I believe over 25 years,
Okay.
and
How many acres?
so I want to say it's around 4,000 acres,
Okay. Yeah.
something like that.
Nice.
Multiple different pastures. They've got a bunch of different species out there, but the deer, specifically whitetail, are world class. They're
Mm-hmm.
giants. So, anyways, through her husband and her father-in-law, she really got into hunting and figured out that she loved it. And
Mm-hmm.
so she's been trying to. We've been down there before. This is the second deer that I've killed down there. But it's hard to kind of work out the schedule, during the holidays and all that good stuff to get down there. This year we were able to do it, and we got to go spend 3 days with them and hang out. And essentially, what I get to do when I go down there is, and I've been surprised both times and just been super blessed to get to do what we've done. But
Mm-hmm.
I get to go down there and kill stuff that just needs to be kind of gotten rid of.
Okay.
They have state demanded basically like they have quotas to meet.
Okay.
essentially.
Gotcha.
They have a certain number of deer, a certain number of tags that they have to kill. And most of the time it's family and friends and, business partners, that kind of thing, that get to go down there and hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are like, way at the back of the train, which we're happy to be included at
Uh-huh.
all. But um, essentially we go down there and we kill what they call cull bucks. So bucks that they don't want to stay in their gene pool,
Mm-hmm.
that have reached a mature age and they want to get rid of. I get to kill those or spikes or doe or whatever. Um, this particular trip, we're riding around. It's pretty nasty weather
Okay.
for us in Texas right now, and it was really foggy, pretty
So
cold while
what,
we were down
like
there, and
62, 68 degrees and a little bit of rain.
yeah, yeah, exactly. No, it was in the like mid 30s, low
Uh,
40s,
okay.
and rain, and it actually does get cold here periodically. It just doesn't last for very long.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we granted we're not real tough about the cold here. We're especially after the summer that we had this past year. Everybody's used to it being 110, so when it gets cold, everybody's freezing to death. But
Uh-huh.
um, we're kind of rolling around trying to figure out where we're going to go. And I was with their ranch manager and then my friend that I mentioned, and trying to figure out where we're going to sit, what we're going to look for. And we come across this deer standing 30 yards off the road. And you see them pretty often, but they're still deer. Like they
Yeah,
run off.
right.
They don't stay hanging around.
Yeah.
Um, and this guy just kind of stood there, and we stood there and looked at him. We sat there and looked at him for a little bit. We're looking at him through our binoculars, trying to figure out, what he looks like and how old we think he is, trying to age him, all that good stuff. And he's just kind of chilling, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of odd. But not a deer that was on the menu for me. Not a deer that I was, going to be allowed to kill,
Mm-hmm.
and quite a bit too big. And
Okay.
so, anyways, we pull off, and the deer never moves. And this ranch manager is like, the wheels start turning. You can see it, and I'm watching him, and he's like, "That just seems weird to me." Like, anyways, he pulls a U-turn, and we turn around, and he kind of noses his truck in close to this deer, and we're looking at it, and he could tell that it's not standing with its full weight on both of its feet.
Okay.
It kind of spooks, and when it runs off, we can see that its front shoulder is pretty tore up, and it's not putting any weight on that front
Okay.
leg.
Gotcha.
So it's injured pretty badly, not able to run well, and they're tough. I mean,
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah.
this deer in particular was just obnoxiously tough. But he's not about to go down on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want we have massive coyote issues, which I'm sure most people in North America do. But
Yeah.
if you leave him there, something's gonna get him, and it's not gonna be the people who have taken care of the property and are there to harvest these deer. So
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of letting this resource fall away. No one gets to eat the meat.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to keep
Yeah.
the antlers, all that good stuff. So this turns from a, hey, that's a really cool deer that I could never have the opportunity to shoot, to like people are turning and looking at me like, you think you can get a good shot on him?
So wait, you got a
Like,
gun? You got your gun or you got a bow out there?
yeah, we had rifles.
Okay.
I would love to get to the point where I am trusted enough
Mm-hmm.
to hunt with my bow on this property, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not quite there yet. So
Okay,
maybe
gotcha.
someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're I had a 308, and so I jump out of the truck and I'm trying to get a good shot on this thing. He's standing right at the brush line. It's real thick cedar brush down there. They don't get very tall. They'll get like
Mm-hmm.
10 or 15 feet tall, but it's
Okay.
just thick. And so he runs off about 60 yards away and is quartered away hard. I can see his right side just barely, and I'm like leaning on this guy's flatbed with my rifle, trying to get a good shot, and like awkward position. Everything's wet, and obviously, for people who haven't hunted, not everyone's this way, but for me, like buck fever's a real thing.
Oh, heck yeah,
Like
dude. That
when it
got me this
goes
year.
from, gosh, like you go from sitting there cool as a cucumber looking at this deer who is a giant, like in my book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, wow, like that's really impressive. And like, but it's not nerve wracking to sit there and look at it. But as soon as somebody goes, you think you can take a good shot on him, like all of a sudden you're just like shaking,
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, oh no, oh no. And so, anyways, I'm trying to keep my composure. And anyways, made a shot. He bucked and kicked real high with his back feet. Um, for sure, it looked like I hit him. And so we kind of piled the truck. And all of this happens in like a matter of 2 minutes.
Okay.
We go
Gotcha.
from like trying to figure out what we're going to do for the next couple of days to like shooting at a deer that I never thought I would have a chance to shoot
Mm-hmm.
at. And so it was like very quick turnaround. And I'm like, adrenaline dump. I'm like, taking deep breaths, like trying to figure out exactly what just happened.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, my friend is like, all right, how long do we have to wait to go like look for this thing? And I'm like, man, like I feel like maybe we should wait a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
ranch manager's with us. He's been doing this for a long time. He's an older gentleman and been doing this his whole life. And so I'm like, man, I'm going to defer to your judgment on,
Mm-hmm. Right.
what do you want to do? He was like, the way he kicked, it looked like a good shot. Like we're going to walk over there and find him.
Uh-huh.
And so, anyways, we walk over to this spot. We find blood immediately, and we start tracking him through the brush, and pop out into a clearing maybe 40 yards later, and he's bedded down in that clearing.
Okay.
Apparently, the wound to his shoulder was bad enough where he just didn't want to move much.
Okay.
He was comfortable in that area. He just got out of our sight and then laid down.
Uh-huh. Right.
And so he laid down in some really tall switchgrass. And so we can see like neck up, and he's looking at us, but it's going to be hard to take another shot. And now it's freestanding. So
Uh-huh.
I'm just
Yeah.
standing. We didn't have sticks. Just a freestanding shot with his rifle. Long story short, I didn't make a good shot. The second shot, it was a little low.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hit right underneath him. I was trying to punch one through the grass and go ahead and take him out, and didn't make a good shot, which is my fault. And then I beat myself up for 24 hours about it. But
yeah. Right.
he jumps up and run off, and we chase him, and he got away from us, and we saw where he hit a fence line and went down it. And down
Okay.
there, they always clear all the fence lines by 30 yards on each side, just so you have a place to drive.
Mm-hmm.
So he hits this fence line. He's running down it. We see where he goes, but it's really foggy. It's still kind of raining a little bit. And he had picked up another deer that we definitely couldn't take a shot down there without risking hitting this other deer. So we decided to back off at that point. And we ended up going and riding around and doing some other stuff, looking at some other things, which I wish I could like put photos on the screen right now, because these deer are giants.
Yeah,
like
big.
just huge.
Hold that thought real quick, because I bet they look like this. So same kind of thing in our area, about 45 minutes from us. I want you to look at this, if you can see on the screen here. Like this is called
Yes.
Samson's Mountain, and they've got typical and non-typical whitetail and
Yes.
elk that are just, I mean, mind-blowingly huge. And
Yes.
I'm
There's
talking 300-pound deer with 215-inch, racks. I
yeah.
mean, just unbelievable. So
Yes.
if it's anything like this, I can imagine.
Yes. There's stuff like that walking around pretty commonly. Like you can go see one of those without too much effort. Now there's still plenty of just normal whitetail deer walking around out there, but there's some giants.
Right. Right.
And so you're trying to be real careful. Those are extremely valuable. And so, anyways, we backed off and waited till the next morning. Go out at first light, pick up blood, and following 30 yards into the brush, we saw where he laid down, and pool of blood. He's bleeding pretty good. We still don't know where exactly I hit him, but seemed like a decent shot.
Okay.
And so we're expecting to find him pretty quickly. And from what we could tell, something had spooked him in the middle of the night, and he had jumped up and was hurting pretty bad, and basically kicking stuff, and like all the ground's just messed up.
Okay.
And it had rained the night before, so you could tell very distinctly between fresh stuff and not fresh stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so anyways, he kicked a bunch of stuff around, but that blood trail just goes cold. 20 feet from where he jumped up, no more blood. Can't find him.
For those that don't know, 4,000 acres, that's enough property that you could lose this deer.
Oh, no doubt. You could lose this deer in 200 acres easy. Right. I mean, you'll see in the progress of the story the way these, especially mature bucks like that, the way they act is, um, all the old timers just say they're like ghosts, and
Mm,
they really do have some very reclusive tendencies. Like when
mhm.
things get tense, they retreat into really thick areas and then just don't move.
Yeah,
They will
right.
literally they'll sit like a statue for hours and hours and hours and not flinch,
Mhm.
um, in order to just not be detected. And so this guy did some similar stuff to that. So we looked for 2.5 hours that morning, scoured this entire ridge where he had bedded down, looked all over the place, looking for sign, looking for tracks, looking for blood, looking for anything,
And you're
and never
nervous. I'm
find
sure
anything.
you're nervous like crazy this
Oh,
whole time.
this at this point, like the next morning, it's high, like high tensions the night before, but still hopeful. Like good blood. We think he's probably going to bed down and die, and we're going to find him in the morning. And then we
Mhm.
look for 2.5 hours and don't find anything else. And I'm just beating myself like, get the chance to come down here and then get this extraordinarily rare chance to shoot at a deer like this,
Mhm.
and then he doesn't die. um and just you're just going, what in the world, like where did that shot hit him, like where's this deer, we're probably never going to see him again.
Mhm.
And anyways, the ranch manager's wife, who also works out there, um, here's while we're took a break from looking, and I'm like, we're gonna be here for 3 days. I'll just look for this deer for 3 days. Like I'm not gonna do something else. Like I'm not gonna
Mhm.
go shoot something else. I would much rather I'll walk around. I'll walk for
Mhm.
however many hours until it's time for me to leave. I'd rather do that than try to shoot something else. And so uh, like I said, ranch manager's wife goes out and is like, well, just tell me where it happened and I'll just go, poke around, like fresh set of eyes.
Mhm.
I don't know how she found what she found, but nowhere close to where we were, like quarter of a mile away in some super thick brush across a ravine, finds where he bedded down the next time,
Oh my gosh.
like almost stepped on it. And she's like, I think I found, it has to be him. Like there's not something else out here bleeding like
Yeah,
that.
right. Yeah.
And so we get all of a sudden like energy's way back
Let's
up
go.
again, and we're like, let's go get him. So after lunch, we run straight back out there, pick up where she left off, and we start scouring this ridge. We walked. Oh, it had probably had to been um, maybe a third of a mile, half a mile, something like that,
Okay.
all the way down this ridge. Me and the ranch manager are about 100 feet apart from each other, and we're just um, picking through this brush. And it was kind of one of those. By this point, my prayer had gone from like, can we find this deer, to like, just thanks for letting me do this. Like,
Uh-huh.
thanks for
Yeah.
having the opportunity to just like get out here and do this. And like, I'm just gonna dive headfirst into the thickest brush pile that I see and like hope that he stands up in there.
Uh-huh.
And so it's cold and I'm sweating. And we walk all the way to the main road where somebody probably didn't cross that. We turn and move uphill and we're coming back. My friend had stayed on the blood spot and was just like, I'm just going to stand here and stare at the ground and hope that I find another speck of blood somewhere.
Uh-huh. Right.
And so she ends up doing that after probably half an hour of standing there and just looking at the same piece of ground, actually finds one little fleck of blood on a twig.
Okay.
And it's moving in the opposite direction, of course, from where
Uh-huh.
we had walked.
Right.
We make our way all the way back to the same area that she's in and start coming down the hill because we'd hit the edge of the property, and start coming back down the hill. Gonna meet back up with her, get in the truck, and then try to figure out what we're gonna do next. And because we never saw anything, never heard anything move, and so she hears us walking. But like I said, the cedar brush is really thick, and she hears us walking and like kind of calls to us. And we might have been 20 or 30 yards from her, but
Okay.
couldn't wouldn't have ever seen her. And she goes, like, she kind of gives this like, hey guys, and we like kind of stop and we're like, yeah, we thought she was just kind of trying to figure out where we were.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, the next thing out of her mouth was, I'm staring at him straight in the eyes.
Oh my gosh.
We stopped. So this deer had been standing there for, at this point, 3 or 4 hours
Oh my
with people
gosh.
walking all around him, talking, looking for stuff, beating through the
Unbelievable.
brush. He did not move a muscle. she had moved, she said less than 30 or 40 feet from where we had started with that blood spot that the ranch manager's wife had found.
Oh my
He's
gosh,
standing that
dude.
close. She walks in the opposite direction and gives up because she can't find any more blood, and sort of looks up, and he's standing, she said, like probably 15 feet from her,
Oh my
staring at
gosh,
her.
dude. That's unbelievable. I mean, he could have rushed her.
Yeah, I mean, just a crazy situation. She doesn't have a gun. Me and the ranch manager have our rifles, but she's holding shooting sticks just in case we get into a situation like the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And so she just stands there and just stares at this deer, like staring contest for, she said it felt like forever, but it was probably only, 4 or 5 minutes, and then
Uh-huh.
heard us coming. When we stop after she calls to us, the deer is standing between her and us. And so now we're in this predicament where, like, we can't take a shot
Oh my
because
gosh. She's right
she's on the
behind.
back, she's right behind the deer. So we're trying to figure out how to do this safely without the deer getting away again. And during the process of her trying to get us lined up and in a decent spot, like verbally trying to get
Mm-hmm.
us moved into a good spot where we can see him and take a shot without, endangering her at all, the deer breaks and takes off again. And we literally, so this ranch manager, like I said, we talked to him about how old he was after this. He said he's 63.
Okay.
This man took off like a bull in a china closet, just like thundering through the cedar brush. And so me and her kind of look at each other and, like, we just take off running after him. We chased this deer. He's bleeding pretty good at this point, so we're able to track him pretty well. But he's in front of us this whole time. We
Okay.
tracked him for close to a mile. Ran
Oh my
after him
gosh.
for close to a mile. And it took us a long time. We'd lose blood, be on the wrong tracks, backtrack, find last blood, restart, take off again. He runs a long ways, and we had gotten back into a clearing again, and crossed the main road of this ranch, and they are looking down, and both of them are just better at tracking blood than I am. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an experience thing, but, like, you could just
Yeah.
tell, like, their eyes are tuned in for it, and
Right.
they're picking out everything on the blood trail. And he's bleeding pretty good. And so while they're looking down, I just start scanning out in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
and just so happened to catch him probably at 85 yards. If
Okay. Yeah.
he had bedded down right on the edge of the next section of cedar brush, and I could see him, he had bedded down, and I could see his antlers turned, looking back and over his shoulder because he could hear us coming. And I kind of said, there he is. And we stopped, set the sticks up, and I took a shot from 85 yards, and he didn't get up again from there.
Man,
And
that's
so that
awesome.
was, it was a crazy, it was, I think most people think, like, high fence hunting, like, shooting fish in a barrel kind of thing. And I think it can be that sometimes, but
Yeah.
this was very much not that.
Yeah.
It was intense. It was a lot of roller coaster. Like, we're never gonna find this deer. Then when you pick up again, don't know how. Still don't. I talked to that ranch manager's wife the next morning. Her name's Michelle, and we talked to her the next morning. And I was like, I don't know how you found what you found. She was like, that was pure luck. I don't know how. She was like, I just happened to walk right over the top of it. And so, anyways, that's the
Yeah,
story of
that's the
Colonel.
story. Man, incredible. So let's just go back through it. We'll post a picture if you're okay with it and send people to your
Yeah,
Instagram to be able to check out the deer. Do you get a weight on that thing by any chance? Because I've always heard that deer, the further south you go, I know they're smaller, but Texas I've heard has some pretty good deer. So what do you think the
yeah.
weight was on this buck?
We weighed him after he was gutted.
Mm-hmm.
So after he was field dressed, he was 115 pounds.
Okay,
Um,
nice.
so I don't know what my lights are doing in here,
Yeah,
but
they were flickering up there. So you got a
so
good amount of meat. You got them in the
yeah.
freezer now, I guess. And how does a big old deer taste?
So I've the same one that previously, when we gone down there, this was 4 years ago. I killed a buck that was actually older than this.
Okay.
So this deer I think was 4 years old. The previous deer that I killed down there was 5.5 or 6,
Okay, gotcha.
which pretty mature for a whitetail.
Oh
Typically, you
yeah,
would take
definitely.
like 6-year-old whitetails, a good deer.
Yeah.
Um, they have a practice of letting a deer hang in a
Mm-hmm.
cooler for a few days,
Yep.
And if the meat is dry aged like that, especially on the carcass,
Mhm.
so you still have the what's happening with a breakdown of bones and marrow and all that stuff is happening with the meat,
Yeah.
as while it's being dry aged. Man, it's some of the best meat I've ever had. It
Man, that's
is
cool. Very,
outstanding.
very cool. So let's go back to buck fever. I'm sitting in a stand this year, and I wanted to get Ransom a deer. So we've been out several times with him. We got a crossbow, and I've got a neighbor that lets me hunt on his property. We sat in several different stands and just couldn't get it done with the crossbow. So he shoots very well when he's got a weighted bag that he's got the crossbow on, and we're sitting in our garage and shooting out 30, 40, 50 yards with the crossbow into our yard. But in the stand, it just was difficult for him, and he missed. And we had a great time, spent a lot of good time. But after I spent some time with him, I went out there and I had 2 or 3 sits in a row, days in a row. And it was day 2. I sat in the exact right spot. And bro, this deer, so the deer just by sheer weight are a lot bigger up here, not by like
Mm-hmm.
racks are all the same. But this deer was probably a 4.5 year old as well. He didn't have nearly the rack that yours had on him, but he was big, just a big, nice, mature whitetail. And that 5.5 year is when the whitetail are really, really mature. But 4, 5, 6 year old deer, I mean, that's a really big, nice deer. This guy comes walking
Yeah.
around a tree and 15 yards away, and I'm shooting my Hoyt. I've got a Hoyt carbon matrix that I'm shooting. And for some reason that day, and this is maybe an excuse, I don't know, maybe it's not an excuse, but for some reason I grabbed last year's release that I had been using, and the release that I'd been shooting all year. I didn't know it was shorter than my release that I shot last year. And I get in that stand and I pull back. And when I pull back, everything just felt off. Long story short, it still shouldn't have messed up. I just missed, dude. Like I missed from like an absolute chip shot on the nicest deer that I've ever seen in my life. And then that's the one big, kind of like you can't get it back moment where you're probably feeling as you're praying, God, thank you for the opportunity, walking around the field. Thank you. This has been great. I'm going to just enjoy it anyways. So I had to go through that whole process. God, just thank you for letting me see a deer like that. Fast forward a month later, I hear from the bathroom, Jordan in our house. Okay, we're in our house. She screams, Jared, come here. And I walk out there, and there is a massive, we nicknamed him Bullwinkle, really huge, wide deer that was another really mature deer just right in our yard. I go run out to the porch and I grab my crossbow and I'm just doing a freestanding shot. And Tate, I always have this problem with when I'm shooting a handgun, I pull down and to the left, is what I do. And
Mm-hmm.
I've missed another deer 2 years ago that was really nice. Freestanding shot in Illinois, you got to shoot with a shotgun. So we've got a rifle barrel shot 12 gauge, is what I shoot with. And so 2 years ago, I did this. I pulled and I pulled down on my, when I shoot a rifle, if I'm freestanding, I'll pull down. And same thing with that crossbow, dude. I shot the belly of that deer and had a big old poof of white smoke or white
Oh,
fur right in my yard. No blood at all, just white fur. And it just two incredible deer that both would have been pretty close to the biggest deer I've ever shot in my life. I mean, they would have both been bigger, the biggest I've shot in my life, and they were both about the same size. Oh my gosh, dude. It was just like a shot to the heart. And then you're praying
it
again,
really
God,
is.
thank you for the opportunity, all that kind of stuff. So you got to do this. I saw that you had some pictures of your family there as well and your kids. So your kids enjoy the whole process. Does your wife like that you're able to do this as well? And what was all that like with the family and celebration and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I love telling her stories like that. Where there's I have plenty of those. Where a couple of years ago, I had a morning sit where I was trying to kill a spike or a doe, and I think I took shots on 2 or 3 different deer before I finally was like, "What am I doing?" And like just missing stuff with my
Uh-huh.
bow. And I think I finally just got angry enough where the next one that walked out, I just center punched. But
Mm-hmm.
it was just because I was so angry from the previous shots. And you're just like,
Uh-huh.
why can I not, like, I can sit and shoot a target at 40 yards all day in my yard.
Yeah,
It's no
right.
big deal.
Right.
As soon as a real animal walks out, you act, it's like you've never done this before.
Dude, that's exactly what it was like. And you know what I think happened when I was pulling back on that first deer? I'm thinking that I had like a couple vibration things that dangle on the string and that like keep the bow shooting really silent.
Like
And
dampeners.
yeah, like dampeners, and one of them had a hook on it, and it was really far, really low, and I think I was so off that I might have been, instead of you looking through my peep sight, I think I might even have been like, I was just so disoriented that I'm trying to run through all the scenarios, when you make a mistake out in the woods, you're trying to figure out what did I do wrong? How did I miss? How did like what factor? And I just it was just a bad it was just for me, it was just a bad shot. But I'm
Yeah.
glad you got the deer, and, I'm glad to hear the story. It's just fun hearing hunting stories like that. So, you said it's a once in a lifetime. So, do you have an open are you planning on going back there one day? Because I know that you have these
Yeah.
opportunities that you have on your family's property to hunt every year. And I
Yeah.
know how it is with family. There's different it's life stages where you can't really hunt as much as you'd like. But,
Yeah.
so you going back, or is this kind of a one and done thing? I know you did a few years ago.
No, we love going down there, and they're good friends of ours. They're really solid Christians. We have some of the most frank, honest conversations of theologically with this particular couple of really some almost any of our friends. They're really really interesting people, and unfortunately, they don't really live really close to us. They live in Austin,
Mhm.
but my wife and I are actually filling out surveys for them, like questionnaires, because they're wanting to send their little boy to a classical Christian education
Oh,
school there in Austin.
fantastic.
So really cool stuff. No, we'll definitely be back down there, even if it's just to go down there and like help people clean deer that they kill or something. I would.
Yeah, that's
The place
awesome.
is just really really cool. But to answer your previous question, I kind of got distracted. But my family loves it.
Yeah.
My little girl, me and her watch hunting shows. When it's me and her, we watch the gritty. We might have talked about this on the previous podcast that I was with you, but we watch the gritty hunting shows, and
Uh-huh.
she's like, Daddy, I want a bow for my birthday this year.
That's
So
awesome.
she'll be 5 in April. So I think she's gonna get a bow and some arrows. And she wants to kill a bear. Like
Oh, that's
she
great.
is she's all about it. And yeah, my little boy is not quite to the age where he can fully understand what's going on just yet, but
Mhm.
he's like, that's a big animal laying there, and like really wanted to touch it. We got that was the cool. If you see the picture on my Instagram, if you go look at it, that's maybe one of my favorite pictures now. Like all of
Yeah,
us, we got to
heck yeah.
bring it back to the house and bring them out and show them the deer, and they were really fired up to see it. And then
That's
they got
fun.
to hang out for the whole cleaning process and everything too. My daughter's asking questions the whole time. And
Yeah.
then if you've never done it, if you don't center punch a deer in the heart, heart meat is outstanding. I know the whole organ meat thing has gotten really big here lately, where people are
Mhm.
getting back into eating liver and heart and that kind of thing. Deer heart, if you just sear it in butter and like salt and pepper, and don't cook it too much, is outstanding.
Yeah, I
So
saw the picture. You had steak and eggs the next day, I think it was, or, heart and eggs or whatever. It was really looked really good.
it was excellent. So yeah, we're trying to inculcate them with as much of this, like, here's where our food comes from. Like
Good.
this is what it takes to put stuff on the table for us to eat. Like
Very
um
cool. Very
my daughter knows where steaks come from. So
Yeah, that's a good thing. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed listening in to Tate talk about his story and getting this deer, and get stories like this. Have stories to tell your kids and grandkids about chasing a deer, and finally finding it, and God answering prayers, and all of that. It's always a good thing to be able to tell people stories like that, and fun for everybody that gets to listen in, and appreciate it. Now, I'll have to let you know, Tate. Right in front of me, I've got a bear rug, and it's a bear I shot in Minnesota a few years ago and got to eat, and it was a pretty fun trip. So if you ever get to go bear hunting, you
I
definitely have to
would
do it. And we'll make sure, and I'll try to put I'll put the Instagram link. And if you and the outfitter down there is okay, if there's any big game hunters or anybody that's down and want to do some hunting down in Texas, I'll put a link and all that kind of stuff in the show notes as well. So anything else, man, before we get off here?
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me tell the story. It'll help me too. I'll be able to take this and show my boy someday too. So
Heck
I
yeah,
look forward to things like that.
yeah,
If
heck yeah,
if you're doing stuff like this, keep that long term thing in the back of your head. I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, but man, the legacy of this stuff is really really cool. I love hearing my grandfather's old hunting stories, and so if you're doing this, you're probably going to be a grandfather someday, and you're going to have some grandchildren that are going to want to hear those stories. So keep that in the back of your mind.
absolutely, absolutely, good stuff. Well, guys, we've been talking to Tate Taylor. Man, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Appreciate you having me.